Hi everyone. Start correlation. Topics which we explore: basic idea of correlation and the method for finding correlation, scatter diagram, Carl-Pearson coefficient of correlation, Spearman's rank correlation. What is correlation? Correlation analysis try to determine the degree of relationship between variables. When the relationship is quantitative nature and the appropriate statistical tool for discovering, measuring the relationship and expressing it in brief formula is known as correlation. Now, the significance of correlation. The study of correlation reduces the range of uncertainty in predictions. Correlation is very useful in the study of economical activity. The concept of regression analysis and ratio of variation are based upon the concept of correlation. And the study of interrelationship and interdependency among the different variables in correlation is very helpful in making analysis, developing hypotheses, drawing conclusion in the area of research. The type of correlation. If the change in one variable affects a change in other variable, the variable are said to be correlated. There are so many ways to express the correlation: positive and negative correlation, linear and non-linear correlation, and simple, multiple and partial correlation. Now, positive and negative correlation. Positive: if increase or decrease in one result in corresponding increase or decrease in other, that is, the two variables deviate in the same direction. For example, an increase in the quantity of a supply of a product due to an increase in its price, that is a positive correlation, means the direction of both variable is in same. Suppose if x is increases, so y is also increases. Now, the negative correlation: if increase or decrease in one result the corresponding decrease or increase in other, that is two variable in the opposite direction. For example, an increase in the demand for a product due to decrease in its price, that is means if x is increases, so y is decreases. Now, the linear and non-linear correlation. When a unit change in the value of one variable leads to a constant change in the value of another variable, the correlation between two variables is called linear correlation. For example, if increase in the price of commodity by 20% lead to decrease in its demand by 15% every time, it is said to be a price and demand have linearly correlated. Now, when the unit change in the value of one variable lead to be a fluctuating change in the value of other variable, the correlation between the variable is called non-linear correlation. For example, if increase in the price of commodity 20% lead to be decrease in its demand ranging 5, 10, 15, it's said that the price and demand have a non-linear correlation or a curvilinear correlation. Simple, multiple and partial correlation. When we study the correlation between two variables, this correlation is said to be a simple correlation. That is, a study of correlation between price and demand and two variables. When we study the correlation among more than two variables, this correlation is said to be multiple correlation. For example, we study the correlation between price of product and demand for the product and income of the consumer. That is a multiple correlation. Now, when we say we study the correlation among more than two variables, but in that study we only consider interrelationship between two variables and the third variable assumed to be a constant, this correlation are said to be partial correlation. For example, the study of correlation between demand of a product and income of a consumer assuming the price of a constant factor. Now, the measurement of correlation. Correlation gives an idea about interdependency and interrelationship between two or more variables, but it does not specify the amount of correlation. For that, we study the coefficient of correlation. It is a value which not only tells about the nature of correlation, that is positive, negative or zero, between the two variables, but also tell us about its intensity and extent. It denoted by small r. The value of correlation coefficient lies between 0 and 1. Now the method of determining correlation. The first one is scatter diagram. By the help of scatter diagram, it is the simplest way of the diagrammatic representation of bivariate data. Thus, the bivariate data, suppose xi, yi. If the value of the variable x and y are plotted along the x-axis and y-axis respectively in xy plane, the diagram of dots so obtained is known as scatter diagram, which is shown in figure 1, 2, 3. These are the scatter diagram. So the scatter diagram give an idea whether the variable are correlated or not. If the plotted points are very dense, we should expect a fairly good amount of correlation between the variable, which is shown in figure 1 and 2. And if the points are widely scattered, a poor correlation is expected, which is shown in figure 3. Now take an example. With the help of a scatter plot, we discuss some correlations. So from plot 1, the plotted point is very dense and it converges about a line. So in that case, we say this is a perfect positive correlation, and the direction of both correlation are in same direction. And similarly, from figure 7, the direction of both variables are opposite, but the points are very dense. That's why we say it is a perfect negative correlation. Similarly, from figure 2, the dotted points or plotted points are not very dense but are in the same direction. In that case, we say it is a highly positive correlation. And similarly, from figure 6, the plotted points are not very dense and are in opposite direction. So we say it is a highly negative correlation. Similarly, if the plotted points are around the line but are in the same direction, that is shown in the plot 3, is low positive correlation. And similarly, from figure 5, the plotted points are not very dense, so we say is a low negative correlation. And in case 4, that is plot 4, the points are scattered and they are not dense and the plotted points are not in the same direction or says in the opposite direction, so we say there is no correlation between them.